several hours. We really appreciate the calls over the last several weeks. And all of y'all have had great stories that really help, at least help me, I can't speak for them, but really help me, to fast forward through the grieving process and remember Mom when her health was stronger. And as most of y'all know, Mom had a wonderful sense of humor. And most of the stories that people tend to remember are the ones that made you laugh. And some of y'all had kind of lost track a little bit. I mean, there's some of y'all I haven't seen in 30 years, and some I'm meeting for the first time. So anyway, the stories that we've heard have just been funny, and it's helped us a whole lot. So we appreciate you coming today. One of the things that was real important to Mom was family. She really loved Lewisburg, and I think the main reason for that is it really helped her to stay in contact with her family, her immediate family. Even though she moved a lot because her dad was an engineer, she grew up here. Her grandparents were here, so it always helped her to stay in touch with that side of the family. So if we could bow for a second, I would just like to open us in prayer. Father, we just come to you now, and we thank you so much for the gift of Mom and the impact that she had in everyone's life. She really loved each of us and would make the attempt to get to know people, find out where all the younger ones were in their lives, and spend time and visit with them. And so we hope that today that we can, that's the connection that we'll all have with one another. But the reason that we can celebrate today is because of the gift of your son, and we can celebrate knowing that Mom is in heaven with you, with all her family, probably looking down on us at this moment. So we praise you for your gift, and we praise you for Mom, and just lift this up in Christ's name. Amen. Right now, Mary Lynn's going to share some verses from things that happened when we were in Dallas with Mom.
In Mom's last days, the whole time she was on hospice with us, for those 6 weeks that she was with us. But the day before she died, the chaplain came out and he read a passage of scripture that I thought was really beautiful. And I don't believe in coincidences. I believe in God appointments, because that next Sunday that we went to church, we had not been studying the book of John, but our pastor preached on the same exact verses. And I just felt like this is God's reassuring us, comforting us during this time of where Mom is. So this is out of John 14. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God, trust also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. I'm going there to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. You know the way to the place where I'm going. And later Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And I thought, what a beautiful passage. It was so comforting and just and reassuring of where Mom was. So know that she was prayed over, and and actually sung over as she was ushered home to heaven. And right after the chaplain read this verse, he sang a beautiful version of Amazing Grace. So at the end of this time, we will sing Amazing Grace. So now what we would like to do is just share some of our memories of Mom, what she meant to you, and whether they're touching or whether they're funny. So I'm just going to start off with a couple of funny things. Even though dementia is a horrible thing, really, really horrible, and it's hard to see a person go through that, there were a lot of funny moments. Last year when we had her living with us, we had some great times with her. One morning, I was getting ready to get out of bed. I turned over, saw some gray hair, and so I, got out of bed. Thought, okay, I'll let Brian sleep in. I'll go make the coffee. When I walked into the kitchen, Brian was in the kitchen, and I started going, "Oh no, who's been sleeping in my bed?" And it was Mom. She had gotten confused, even though we had signs up, Brian and Mary Lynn's room, Mom's room. She had gotten confused, and unfortunately, that happened a couple of times. So let's just say I was always certain never to be frisky with Brian at any time, because I never knew for certain if it was Mom or if it was Brian there. And she really was a character. She was very adventurous, very silly, which Brian and I are both silly, so she really loved the silliness. But also, she was very in tune with her looks. Mom was always very concerned. I see a lot of head shaking. How she looked. Okay? And even as recent as 2 weeks before she died, and this happened last year too, one night we were getting her ready for bed, and I was changing. I said, "Mom, I'm a little concerned. You look like you're losing some weight." And she said, "Oh, well, I've been trying." I said, "Look, there are no supermodels at 97, And so, she was kind of funny in that way. She would start laughing and joke with you. You may notice that some of the paintings around the room that have the MS on it, she did that last year with the help of an art teacher. Yeah, and she hadn't painted in like 15 years. But she gave it a go. She didn't want to do it, but she gave it a go. And of course, she didn't remember ever doing it, but we had pictures to show her that she had done it. Despite having dementia, she may not have remembered that Brian and I were married, and would frequently say, "Oh no, you're not married," because I would have been there at the wedding. And we'd have to show her the book. But one thing she did remember was some old childhood games or nursery rhyme, patty cake. One day I just did a high five with her, and we went to patty. She gave me 2 hands. We went to patty cake, and she remembered patty cake. So every night we had to do patty cake. So she loved that. She was famous for loving her sweets, which we had to hide on her. So at night we would give her a hug. Brian would be on one end and I'd be on the other, and said, "We're going to make an Oreo sandwich cookie for you, and you're going to be the cream in the middle." So she loved those kind of things. So we had some really, really sweet times with her during that. So I think she had a happy life even up until the end. And she was always so sweet. All the hospice nurses and caregivers said, "We just can't believe how sweet she is." They came back after she died and said, "We really miss her." Her sitter even texted me a little while ago, who's back in Dallas, and said, "Oh, please, I wish I could be there, but I can't, and I hope y'all have a wonderful morning." So if anybody at this point would like to share anything, yeah, well, I think Michelle wanted to share something, and Suzanne, so come on out. Those tricky chairs.
Rather you than me.
I'm Michelle. I'm Mildred's granddaughter. I'm Robert's daughter, and I almost said I wanted to. I was asked to share this, but I hate public speaking and I talk really fast, so we're going to try and get through this together. But about 10, 11 years ago in college, I had to take speech, which I dreaded, and we had to do a commemorative speech on something that we loved. And so a lot of people pick like their favorite author or their Mustang and things like that, and I decided to write mine on grandmother. So it's a little dated, but this is my speech from then. She's intelligent, she's independent, she's compassionate. She's loving, she is generous. She is fun and witty, she is beautiful. She's old in age, but she's young at heart. Like the trunk of a tree, she's the strength of my family. Like the rocks of a river, she helps guide my family. She's the fruit of the tree, and she's the apple of my eye. She is my grandmother. Mildred Bernice Soniat is my father's mother. She was a loving wife of 42 years, a sister to 2 boys, and a mother to 3 boys. and a grandmother of 8 grandchildren. That's multiplied a lot since then. She's the only grandparent that I've ever had, making our relationship closer than many. We're the only 2 blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls in the family, and not only are our physical traits similar, but we share the same personality. We're both stubborn, compassionate, and independent. My grandma's a healthy 87-year-old Southern lady, was born on March 15, 1921 in New Orleans, Louisiana. My grandmother is very private of her age and won't tell anyone, not even the doctors. Being the witty person she is, when asked about her age, she usually responds with a clever answer such as, "I'm old as my tongue but not my teeth," or I'm as old as my big toe, but now she says I'm old as my little toe because she thinks it's cuter. So, my grandma loves to be called grandmom or grandmother, but don't dare call her granny or grandma because it makes her sound too old. My grandmother's famous saying is, "I'm older in age but young at heart," and this I can say is very true. I remember about 5 years ago, she was about 82 or 83 at this time. I remember about 5 years ago, I called my grandmother to see how she was. She complained that her back hurt a little, so I had asked her why, and she told me that she climbed a tree with binoculars because she thought she saw a ship having trouble, and she wanted to make sure they were okay. And when she climbed back down, she jumped out of the last branch. As you can see, my grandmother's a very active lady. She works out 3 times a week doing Tai Chi, cycling, and other aerobics. Other hobbies are walking on the beach daily with her extremely obese dachshund, riding her hot pink bike, reading, and oil painting. She's the first in town to start painting on slabs of slate. These became so popular she ended up selling them in the New Orleans area. My grandmother was born in New Orleans, moved to Alabama, Tennessee, Nicaragua, Honduras, and many others while traveling with her father's engineering company. She started kindergarten in Honduras, and one day after school, her dad brought home a deer. It lived in a hotel with them, and they would carry it down the stairs every day to go outside to the bathroom. Once her dad was transferred back to Louisiana, they brought the deer home on the ship with them, and they kept it as a pet for many years, which we actually have a newspaper article confirming this story. So they also had a pet anteater, but could not bring him back with them. Once they got back to New Orleans, my grandmother started first grade and then continued to move all around until she was 15 years old. When she was 15, her father built a house on a beach in Mandeville, Louisiana, a town right across the lake from New Orleans. This is where my grandmother resided up until 3 years ago. During her high school years, my grandmother was crowned with a football helmet to be Mandeville High School's football queen and also prom queen. She was later a maid in an extravagant New Orleans ball, posing as Cleopatra. Mandeville is where my grandmother's heart is. She's lived there in her little house on her beach for over 70 years. In 2005, she lost her home in Hurricane Katrina. She not only lost her home, but she lost her happiness and the ability to make more memories in her little house on the beach where my grandfather was buried. She is not only a survivor of Katrina, but a survivor of the Great Depression, World War II, the Korean, Vietnam, Persian Gulf, and Iraqi War. My grandma was like a history book in itself, with many chapters still to be written. Through all of her experiences and stories, she became a very strong and independent woman, one I admire dearly. She's taught me how to work through my trials and tribulations, how to be a true and classy Southern lady, and most of all, how to have fun in life. After 20 years alone, my grandmother is still devoted and in love with my grandfather more than ever. She's healthy, active, and outgoing, and I hope to be at least half to what she is. My grandmother showed my family and I unconditional love and joy. Like a lighthouse is to her ship, she is my light in times of trouble. She is my sunshine on a rainy day. I chose to commemorate my grandmother because she's not only been my inspiration and a great role model, but because she is my dear friend. She's intelligent, she's independent, she's compassionate, she is loving, she is generous, she is fun and witty, she is beautiful, she is old in age, but young at heart. Like the trunk of a tree, she's the strength of my family. Like the rocks of a river, she helps guide my family. She is the fruit of a tree and the apple of my eye. She is my grandmother.
That's a tough one to follow. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Suzanne Clark. I am the oldest of the Soniat grandchildren. I am Caroline's daughter. Caroline was Charlie's youngest daughter. And through very unfortunate circumstances, I did not come into this wonderful family until I was 27 years old. And picture this, Grandmom was living her life and had her children, had grandchildren to look forward to at the time. And then all of a sudden, into her world comes my mother, my father, and I. It's kind of like, the maybe unwanted blast from the past. And where you might think that she would be a bit resentful of our, intrusion into her world, that was not at all the way that it was with Grandmom or with Granddad. They had been hoping and praying for the reunion and for this time to come together. So when we came and met for the first time, we were not the least bit nervous. We were not the least bit uncertain of ourselves because Grandmom and Granddad opened their arms, opened their heart, and opened their world to us. And what a blessing it was. Unfortunately, we were only with Granddad a very short time, around 3 years before he passed away from cancer. But one of the things that I'm going to remember the most and that I'd like to mention today, throughout his illness, Grandmom was the most loving, the most adoring wife, nurse, caretaker to him. He never wanted for a thing, never. It's as though she always knew exactly what to do for him at the very moment that he needed it. And yet when we would come from Mobile to visit, Grandmother always would meet us at the door, perfectly dressed, beautiful makeup, jewelry, totally with it. You came in, she always had a wonderful meal prepared and waiting for us. She was the perfect hostess, the perfect true Southern lady. I'll always remember the way that she loved and the way that she taught just by her actions what a wife should be and what a mother should be. And as years passed and after Granddad's death, Grandmom and I would visit on the phone at night. During the week, I would call her, she would call me, and we would visit on the phone. And she always would tell me, honey, now you're going to find that perfect man. You're going to find that really good person to be your husband, but you've got to always remember to make sure that he meets the checklist. And she would go over some of the things about Granddad that she loved the most and how you have to look for these things in the right person. Eventually, it took me 2 tries, but eventually I did find that happiness. And I did find a very wonderful man, but I was not able to have children of my own. And so some of our conversations, I always told Grandmom about me wanting to be a mother and how important it was for me to be a mother and to have children. So when I was divorced the first time and I was going to marry the second time, and I told her, I said, Grandma, I'm probably never going to marry again unless the gentleman that I would marry would have a family, would have children, because I really want to be a mother. Well, as God had a better plan than I realized, I did marry a man, and I got a son, and I got a daughter through that marriage. And just a few short years ago, Grandmom was 90 at the time. Robert and Tina brought Grandmom over to my house in Alabama for Easter. And we were all sitting outside we have a deck, and we live in the country, so we have a really big yard, and the children were all out in the yard playing and hunting Easter eggs, and Grandmom was watching the children. And my granddaughter ran up on the porch, and she came over to me, and I had my arms around her, and my Grandmom looked at me, and she said, darling, she looks just like you. And I looked at her, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. So I walked over, and I leaned over, and said, Grandmom, you know that's not possible. And she said, isn't that your granddaughter, Shelby? And I said, yes, ma'am, it is. She said, sweetheart, that is your child in love. That's probably my most precious memory of all the many wonderful memories that I have. But I hope, and I know as the other granddaughters, and I know you're much younger than I am, but if there's one thing that we can take in our heart with our memories of her, is her graciousness and her love. She loved so unconditionally, and she was so proud of every one of us. She was always interested in what we were doing and what was going on in our world. But I'll always remember that it was, my granddaughter looked like me because she was my granddaughter in love.
Thanks, Suzanne. Anybody else? You can just stand up and share from
My dad asked me to share for him since he couldn't be here today. I'm Chuck's daughter, I'm Sean Marie. And he specifically asked me to share from a passage in 1 Corinthians because he said, this is like the defining traits of God, just being a loving father, and he felt like it's so well defined to his mom. It says, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no account of wrongs. Love takes no pleasure in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things. Love never fails. And that is such a beautiful picture of Grandma. She loved us so well, and she was always interested in our lives. I remember from the time I was tiny, she always made time to play with us. All of the tea parties, baby dolls, dress up, you know. She did it all with us. Yeah, she just always made time to be available, and that's like the sweetest memory of her. So, thanks, Sean.
I'm Gina. I'm another one of Margaret's daughters. And, I have one thing to say is I'm not Chuck's biological daughter, so I wasn't Grandma's biological granddaughter, but I never felt that way. She, like with Suzanne, she just welcomed everybody in, and I never felt like she had favorites or anything. But a funny story, because Grandma was pretty feisty. When I was little, we always loved to share the bed with Grandma when we would stay with her after Granddad had died, and it was my turn to share the bed with Grandma. But apparently, she told me I turned over like a whale. So I would just like gently roll, I would flop over. And so she always gave me a hard time about not being able to sleep with me. And she said, if you turn over like a whale, I'm going to poke you with a pin. I was terrified. So I think I slept the stillest I'd ever slept that whole night. But I mean, I couldn't have been more than 9 when she said that. I still remember to this day she was going to threaten to poke me with a pin. But I miss that feisty little lady. She was precious.
Anybody else like to share a memory or a funny story or a sentiment or anything?
I want to share something.
Okay, Carol.
My name's Harold. I'm a friend of the family for about 25 years. When the house when the storm got the house, there were very few things, there's things that she wanted to keep. And Tina would say, no, we don't have any room for it. No, you can't take that. No, you can't do that. But upstairs in her room, she had a little bitty closet, just a little door. And she had me sneak stuff in there a couple times. And just pack it in there. Another thing, she would, I'm 73, so I'm older than her sons, but she would never let me call her mom. I always had to call her Mildred, because she was my friend, and I appreciate it. And one other story I want to share. I was on the beach with her one day, and we got talking about the things of God. And I told little my background. I mean, I'm a New York Jew. I mean, it's a lot different. But we got talking, and I told her that at a certain time in my life, I accepted Jesus, that it was real. And so I asked her, I said, church won't get you into heaven. I said, do you really believe that Jesus died for your sin? She said, yes, I do. And I thought I would pass that on.
I just want to share something in that vein. I was thinking of, makes me remember last Christmas, I woke up early, and it was really, really cold that morning, and I thought, okay, I'm going to get up about 6:30, I want to sneak out of the house, and I want to go to my favorite place at the lake where I always felt like God was there listening to me. Well, don't you know, Mom was up too. I thought, oh, snowman about this high that she slept with, okay? But anyway, so I said, let's bring Frosty with us in the car, okay? You know, just to come along. She was always a character. But anyway, so we got out to the lake, and I told her, I said, you know, Mom, I have been out to this lake hundreds of times, especially when I was single, trying to figure out life and trying to maneuver through dating relationships and relationships in general. And I said, I just always felt God's, she said, presence. And I said, yes, Mom. I've always felt God's presence there. And so I do feel like she had that connection to the Lord. I really do. In church, we got a Fellowship Bible Church in Dallas, but there was one song in particular that she would sing the refrain to, and that was, I am the child of God. And it wasn't that often, but she would sing, I am a child of God, and I just went, oh, Lord, is she singing that to you, or are you letting her sing that so that we know that she's really there with you? So I would say have peace, because I do think there is a room with her name in heaven, and she's there. Anybody else that would like to share? It doesn't have to be serious stories, it can be funny.
I do want to share something that I thought about was when Katrina hit and it forced her to leave her house. It was interesting. Well, it was really hard on her because there was so many memories that were lost. That she was 85, and it was really at a time in her life where or as a family, we needed to start making decisions on what we would do if she would move in with someone. She was just getting lonely because of circumstances. Robert, Chuck, and I were all living out of state. And I guess the reason I bring this up is for any of y'all that are experiencing life at a point where it's just really unsettling with the circumstances that you're dealing with. I look at Mom's life and I think even though God closed the door on her to continue living in Lewisburg, it opened the door for her to go live in Colorado. And last year when Mom came to live with us, right before that, she had an incident. Her sodium levels had gotten low, and she fell and was having problems with vertebrae in her back. And of course, she had the dementia. And for a week after her stay in the hospital, she had to go to extended care. And one of the therapists was telling me, because Mom had dementia, that they wanted her to, change was bad, every day needed to be the same. And the whole time they're telling me this, I'm laughing to myself. Because since Katrina and since the time Mom went to Colorado, she has loved every minute. God closed the door here for her, but and one of the images that I think of is, for those of y'all that have seen the Toy Story movies, in one of the 3 movies there's a picture of Woody, and he's hanging on to something, and he's going real fast, and his body's flapping back, and the wind's whipping through his face, and his cheeks are popping. That's the image of Mom. She loved going through life like that, where she's grabbing on. She wouldn't be the person where she was leading the charge, but whether it would be living with Robert and Tina and traveling back and forth from Colorado to Louisiana in their RV, breaking down just about every trip. One of the trips with Tina, they got snowed in Colorado, about 4 hours south of the town. They were snowed in for about 5 days. And the people in this truck stop heard there was a, 85-year-old woman with one of the groups, and Mom loved being the center of attention during that time. So that was how Mom liked living life. So where God closes a door, I just encourage y'all, be open to God opening another door, because that sure did happen with her. And one other thing is, with Mom, her saving grace, the thing that always helped her was she could walk. And as you know, I've seen several people coming up the front stairs here this morning, and they're huffing and puffing when we got to the top. She could always do those stairs. And last year, when she came to live with Mary Lynn and I, we don't have stairs like that at our house, because we live in Dallas. That several times a week, I would take her to the mall. And this particular mall we would go to had a second floor. And I would always make Mom climb the stairs outside, and I would tell her, if you want to come back and live with Robert and Tina at the house in Lewisburg, you got to be able to climb the stairs. And then we would go to the food court, I'd buy her a big chocolate shake, and she would rest. So that's my story. Thank you.
Anyone else like to share a word? Sure.
Something real quick, and then probably the food's ready, we could all mingle and talk some more, but I lost my mom and dad when I was 11 years old. I hope I can get through this. And when I came into the Soniat family, I truly was blessed with the most wonderful mother anybody could have. We did not have a mother-daughter-in-law relationship. We were best friends. And we had so much fun together. We're shopaholics. Loved taking her around to see her family, friends. She meant the world to me. And I will truly, after everybody goes, and I'm here by myself, realize how much I missed her, because for the last 6 years, that's been my winter job, is bringing her down here so she doesn't fall, which, oh my gosh, how many times she fell and still broke everything. And she's a cat. I said, Mom, you're past your 9 lives, you're into 11 now. But truly over the years, I've been so blessed to have somebody so special in my life. I guess I held on for a long time. Every time I was a hard nurse, nursing her back to life. No, you're gonna do this. Take another step. We're not done with therapy. One more time. How many times do I have to do this? One more time, Mom. And she wanted sugar and I wanted protein, and, and we went back and forth. But I'm so thankful that she came into my life, and she still will always be a part of our lives. And I want to thank everybody. This is a non-traditional memorial, because she's been gone for so many years, and none of us live here to have a church here per se. So we don't have a priest or a minister, but I think Mom was so non-traditional, she would be very happy with today. So, and God bless you all for coming. Thank you.
Grandma is very independent, as we were saying, which made caring for her sometimes a little bit more challenging when she had her dementia, because she still knew what was best for her, and she was not going to do what you said. Like, she wanted to eat chocolate for dinner and stuff. So as much of a joy as she was to take care of, it was also still difficult. And so the day she passed away, I knew up until that day, though, she had the perfect life. I mean, she was happy, and I just really wanted to thank my parents, as well as Uncle Brian, Aunt Mary Lynn, and Uncle Chuck and Aunt Margaret for taking care of her, because she had 98 years of extremely fulfilled life surrounded by family. And if it wasn't for all of her sons and daughter-in-laws, I don't think she would have been as happy after Katrina and all that. And you all gave her 13 more years of life after that, all of you. So thank you very much for all that you guys have done for her.
Would anyone else like to share something?
So I'm Robert. I was her favorite son. Now, in the middle, you're the black sheep, which makes you the favorite one. On behalf of Chuck, Brian, and I just would really like to thank our wives for the care that they gave Mom through her whole lifetime. They were great daughters. And that's it.
Thank you.
the songs that Mom liked that she would sing when we would take her to church was Amazing Grace. So we're just gonna sing it a cappella in closing. And we're just gonna do one verse. Okay.
We're gonna do 3.
We-
Let me get here so I can.
I'll let them.
Okay, that's fine. And anybody join in as you would like.
We're just pulling up the words.
Yes.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious is that grace appeared, the hour I first believed. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
Thank you all for coming, and now